Hello and welcome to the podcast where we make learning English easy and fun. I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. In each episode, we explain common English words and phrases in a simple language.
So, let's start and make English simple together. Okay, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is constantly. Then we will continue with cheerful and to admit. Then to get out of hand. And the final one is mind your own business. So, the first word today is constantly.
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 Great! So what does constantly mean?
Constantly is an adverb. It means all the time or very often. When something happens constantly, it happens again and again without stopping.
Yes, that's right. Now let's give some example sentences. Eric, you go first.
Sure. Here's the first example sentence. She is constantly studying for her exams.
It means she is always studying for her exams without taking many breaks.
Exactly. Now, your turn, Lisa.
Okay. The second example sentence is, the baby is constantly crying. It means that the baby is crying very often, almost all the time.
Right. Constantly is used to describe actions that happen very frequently or without stopping. Now, let's listen to a sample dialogue using the word constantly. Alex and Jamie are talking in an office.
Jamie, why are you constantly checking your phone?
I am waiting for an important message. I need to check it all the time.
I see. But constantly looking at your phone can be distracting.
You're right. I will try to check it less often.
That was a good dialogue. Now, let's talk about it. Lisa, do you find yourself constantly checking your phone?
Sometimes, yes. When I expect an important message, I often check my phone. What about you?
I do the same, especially when I am waiting for news or an important email.
Do you think checking your phone constantly is a good habit?
Not really. It can be distracting and take away from other important tasks.
I agree. It's better to check it less often and focus on what you are doing.
So, what can we tell our listeners about using the word constantly?
We can tell them to use it when they want to describe something that happens all the time or very often.
Yes, and remember that constantly can help to show that an action is repeated very frequently.
That's right. Well, that's all for the word constantly. We hope our followers learned something new. Now let's move on to our next word.
The next word is cheerful.
Cheerful.
Cheerful. Cheerful means feeling or showing happiness. When someone is cheerful, they are happy and make others happy too.
Yes, that's right. Now, let's give some example sentences. Eric, you go first.
Sure. Here's the first example sentence. She always has a cheerful smile on her face.
It means that she is always happy and shows her happiness with a smile.
Exactly, Lisa.
Okay, here is the second example sentence. The cheerful music made everyone feel good.
It means that the happy and lively music made everyone feel happy and in a good mood.
Right. Cheerful is used to describe people or things that make others feel happy.
Now, let's listen to a sample dialogue using the word cheerful. Emma and Jack are at a park.
Jack, you look very cheerful today.
Thanks, Emma. I feel great because the weather is so nice.
I agree. The sunshine makes me feel cheerful too.
Let's enjoy this cheerful day by going for a walk.
That was a good dialogue. Now, let's talk about it. Lisa, what makes you feel cheerful?
Many things can make me feel cheerful, like spending time with friends, good weather, or listening to my favorite music. What about you, Eric?
I feel cheerful when I am with my family or when I achieve something at work.
I see. Do you think being cheerful is important?
Yes, being cheerful helps us feel good and can make other people happy too.
I agree. It's nice to be around cheerful people because they spread positive energy.
So, what can we tell our listeners about using the word cheerful?
We can tell them to use it when they want to describe someone who is happy and makes others happy.
Yes, and remember that cheerful can be used for people, music, places, or anything that makes us feel good.
That's right. We hope our viewers have learned something new.
Okay, let's move on to our next word. The next word is to admit.
To admit.
To admit.
Great choice, Eric. To admit means agreeing that something is true, especially if it's bad or you don't want to accept.
Exactly. For example, he admitted that he made a mistake. It means that he said it was true, that he made a mistake.
My example sentence is, she admitted to forgetting the meeting. This means that she said it was true that she had forgotten about the meeting.
Great. Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Firstly, to admit can be followed by that and then a full sentence. Secondly, it can be followed by to and then a verb in the ing form. For example, we can say, I admit that I made a mistake, or I admit to making a mistake.
Now, let's hear a dialogue using this word. Ready, Eric?
Yes, I'm ready.
Tom, did you copy Sarah's homework?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure your answers are exactly the same?
Well, okay. I admit that I looked at her paper.
I'm glad you admit it. But you know, that's not allowed, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. I admit to cheating, and it won't happen again.
That was an interesting dialogue, Eric. Let's talk about it. What did Tom admit to doing?
At first, Tom didn't want to admit anything, but then he admitted that he looked at Sarah's paper and cheated on his homework.
That's right. And how did the teacher respond when Tom admitted it?
The teacher was glad that Tom admitted to cheating, but reminded him that it's not allowed.
Exactly. Do you think it's always easy to admit things, Eric?
No, I don't think it's always easy. Sometimes it can be embarrassing or scary to admit mistakes. What do you think, Lisa?
I think it's usually best to admit mistakes, but sometimes it might depend on the situation.
I agree. Admitting mistakes can help us learn and grow, often making things better in the end.
Well said. That's all we have time for with this word. Remember, listeners, to admit means to say something is true, even if it's difficult.
Exactly. It's an important word for being honest and taking responsibility.
Okay, Eric. Now, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is get out of hand.
Get out of hand.
Get out of hand. Get out of hand means something becomes difficult to control or manage. When a situation gets out of hand, it becomes chaotic or uncontrollable.
Yes, that's right. Now, let's give some example sentences.
Here's the first example sentence. The party started to get out of hand when too many people arrived. It means that the party became difficult to control because there were too many people.
Okay. Here is the second example sentence. If you don't stop arguing, things might get out of hand. It means that if you keep arguing, the situation could become uncontrollable and difficult to manage.
Right. Get out of hand is used to describe situations that become chaotic or hard to control.
Now, let's listen to a sample dialogue using the phrase, get out of hand.
Sarah, did you see what happened at the event yesterday?
Yes, it got out of hand when the food ran out.
I know. People started pushing and shouting. It was crazy.
I hope next time they're better prepared so it doesn't get out of hand again.
That was a good dialogue. Now, let's talk about it. Lisa, have you ever been in a situation that got out of hand?
Yes, I have. Once at a concert, the crowd got too excited and it got out of hand. It was a bit scary. What about you, Eric?
I have experienced something similar at a big family gathering where too many kids were running around and it got out of hand quickly.
Do you think managing situations before they get out of hand is important?
Absolutely. It's always better to keep things under control to avoid chaos.
I agree. Preventing things from getting out of hand can keep everyone safe and happy.
So, what can we tell our listeners about using the phrase, get out of hand?
We can tell them to use it when they want to describe situations that become uncontrollable or chaotic.
Yes, and remember that get out of hand can help to show that a situation needs to be managed carefully to avoid problems.
Okay, let's move on to the last word. What's the last word, Eric?
The last word is mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business is a phrase. It means to stop being interested in other people's affairs or problems.
Here's an example sentence. When I asked him about his plans, he told me to mind my own business. It means that when I asked him about his plans, he told me to stop asking and to not be interested in his personal affairs.
Here's another example. She should mind her own business instead of gossiping about others. It means that she should focus on her own life and not talk about other people's personal matters.
Great! Now, let's have a short dialogue using the phrase mind your own business. In this dialogue, we'll have two friends, Jenny and Mark, talking at a park.
Why were you talking to Tom for so long, Mark?
Mind your own business, Jenny. It was a private conversation.
Okay, I understand. I didn't mean to pry.
It's all right. Just sometimes people need to mind their own business.
Now, let's talk about our dialogue. Lisa, what do you think about Mark's reaction?
Well, based on the dialogue, Mark feels that his conversation with Tom was private and didn't want Jenny to ask about it. What do you think about Jenny's response?
Jenny seems to understand and apologizes for asking. She respects Mark's request to mind her own business. Have you ever been told to mind your own business, Lisa?
Yes, once I was curious about a friend's personal problem, and she told me to mind my own business. It made me realize I should respect her privacy. How about you, Eric?
Yes, I've been told that too. It's a good reminder to respect other people's boundaries. Do you think it's always rude to say, mind your own business?
It can sound rude, but sometimes it's necessary to protect one's privacy. It's important to say it politely, if possible.
I agree. Saying it politely can help avoid hurting someone's feelings. Do you know any other phrases that mean the same as mind your own business?
Yes, phrases like stay out of it or it's none of your business have similar meanings. Anything else you want to add about our phrase today?
Just remember that mind your own business means to stop being interested in other people's affairs. It's an imperative sentence used to give a command. And that's it for today's episode.
All right. That's all for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found it helpful and fun.
Please subscribe and like the video and practice the words of today.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more simple explanations of English words and phrases.
Until then, keep practicing and keep learning. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Welcome to the podcast, where we explain English in a simple and easy way. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just someone who loves learning English, this video is for you.
Let's start and make English simple and enjoyable together. Okay, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is cautious. Then we will continue with to figure out and to charge. Then to make up one's mind. And the final one is cut someone some slack.
Okay, Eric, let's start with the first word.
The first word is cautious.
Cautious.
Cautious. Cautious means being careful to avoid potential problems or dangers. It's about being aware of risks and taking steps to stay safe or prevent mistakes.
Now, let's give some example sentences. Eric, can you start?
Sure, here's my example. The old man was cautious when crossing the busy street. It means that the old man was very careful when he crossed the street. He probably looked both ways and walked slowly to avoid any danger from cars.
Good explanation. Here's my example. The scientist was cautious with the new experiment. It means that the scientist was very careful while doing the new experiment. She probably followed all safety rules to avoid any accidents or mistakes.
Great. Now, let's talk about how to use this word. Cautious is an adjective, so we use it to describe people or actions. We can also use it with about or of, like cautious about spending money or cautious of strangers.
Now let's hear a dialogue using this word.
Amy, are you ready for the hiking trip tomorrow?
Yes, Ben. I am bringing extra water and a map. I like to be cautious when hiking.
That's smart. I am also bringing a first aid kit. It's good to be cautious in case of any accidents.
Nice dialogue, Eric. It shows how Ben and Amy are being cautious about their hiking trip.
Yes, it does. Lisa, can you think of a time when you were very cautious?
Yes. When I learned to drive, I was very cautious. I drove slowly and followed all the rules.
That's a good example. It's important to be cautious when driving. I was very cautious too when I started a new job. I made sure to understand all the tasks before doing them.
Oh, that's a good approach. Do you think being cautious is always a good thing?
Most of the time, yes. Being cautious can help prevent mistakes and keep you safe, but sometimes being too cautious can stop you from trying new things.
That's true. It's about finding a balance. Well, that's it for our word cautious. We hope our viewers all understand it better now. Let's move on to our next word. What's the next word, Eric?
The next word is to figure out.
To figure out.
To figure out. To figure out means to understand or solve something after thinking about it. When you figure something out, you find the answer or solution.
Yes, that's right. Now, let's give some example sentences. Eric, you go first.
Sure, here's the first example sentence. She finally figured out how to use the new phone. It means that she understood how to use the new phone after trying and thinking about it.
Here is the second example sentence. We need to figure out the best way to finish this project. It means that we need to find the best way to complete the project after considering different options.
Right. To figure out is often used when solving problems or understanding something difficult. Now, let's listen to a sample dialogue using the phrase to figure out.
Mark, can you help me figure out this math problem?
Sure, let's look at it together. Maybe we can figure it out.
Thanks. I have been trying to figure it out for an hour.
No problem. Sometimes it takes time to figure things out.
That was a useful dialogue. Lisa, have you ever had trouble figuring something out?
Yes, many times. I often need help to figure out how to use new technology. What about you, Eric?
I sometimes have trouble figuring out how to fix things around the house. It takes me a while to figure it out.
Do you think it's important to ask for help when you can't figure something out?
Yes, asking for help is very important. It can make it easier to figure things out and learn new things.
I agree. It's always good to get a different perspective when trying to figure something out. So, what can we tell our listeners about using the phrase to figure out, Eric?
We can tell them to use it when they want to talk about understanding or solving something after thinking about it. And remember that to figure out can be used for both small and big problems, like figuring out how to use a phone, and bigger problems, like figuring out a project plan.
That's right. We hope you learned something new. Okay, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is to charge.
To charge.
To charge. To charge is a verb. It has a few meanings, but today we will talk about two common ones: asking for money for a service or product, and putting electricity into a device. Here's an example sentence. The restaurant charges $20 for a steak.
It means that the restaurant asks for $20 if you want to buy a steak.
Here's another example. I need to charge my phone because the battery is low.
It means that I need to put electricity into my phone because the battery does not have much power left.
Now let's briefly discuss some grammar related to charge. When talking about asking for money, charge is often followed by the amount of money and then the item or service. For example, the hotel charges $100 per night. When talking about electricity, charge is followed by the object that needs electricity, like charge my phone.
Great. Now, let's have a short dialogue using the word to charge. In this dialogue, we'll have two friends, John and Emily, talking at a cafe.
I heard this cafe charges a lot for coffee. Is it true?
Yes, they charge $15 for a cup of coffee.
Wow, that's expensive. By the way, do you have a charger? My phone needs to be charged.
Sure, I have one. You can charge your phone with it.
Now, let's talk about our dialogue. Lisa, what do you think about John's situation?
Well, based on the dialogue, John thinks the cafe is expensive because they charge $15 for a cup of coffee. What do you think about Emily's response?
Emily confirms that the cafe charges $15 for coffee and also helps John by giving him a charger for his phone. Have you ever felt something was too expensive, Lisa?
Yes, I once went to a concert where they charged $10 for a bottle of water. How about you, Eric?
I felt the same at an airport where they charged a lot for simple snacks. Do you think it's fair for places to charge high prices?
Sometimes it can be too much, but it depends on the location and service.
I agree. It's important to balance quality and price.
And just remember that to charge can mean asking for money or putting electricity into something. It's a versatile verb. Okay, let's move on to our next word.
The next word is make up one's mind.
Make up one's mind.
Make up one's mind.
Great choice. Make up one's mind means to decide something after thinking about it. When you make up your mind, you decide what you want to do.
Exactly. For example, she made up her mind to study abroad.
It means that she decided to study in another country. My example sentence is, he can't make up his mind about which movie to watch.
It means he is struggling with which movie to choose. So, make up one's mind is used when someone finally makes a decision after considering different options.
Good point, Eric. Now, let's use make up one's mind in a short dialogue. Alex and Sarah are talking about weekend plans.
Sarah, have you made up your mind about what to do this weekend?
Not yet, Alex. I can't make up my mind about going hiking or visiting the museum.
Both sound fun. Maybe you can do one this weekend and the other next weekend.
Nice dialogue, Eric. It shows how Alex and Sarah use make up one's mind to talk about their plans.
Yes, it does. Now, let's chat a bit about make up one's mind. Lisa, can you think of a time when you had to make up your mind about something important?
Yes. I had to make up my mind about which job offer to accept. It was a tough decision, but I finally chose the one that felt right for me.
That's a good example. It shows how making up your mind can sometimes be difficult. For me, I had to make up my mind about moving to a new city. It took a lot of thinking, but I'm happy with my choice.
Oh, moving to a new city is a big decision. Do you think it's important to take your time when making up your mind?
Definitely. Taking your time helps you think about all the options and make the best choice. It's also good to talk to friends or family for advice.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for our idiom, make up one's mind. We hope you all understand it better now. And now it's time to explain the last word.
The last word is to cut somebody some slack.
To cut somebody some slack.
To cut somebody some slack. To cut somebody some slack means being less strict or more tolerant. It's often used when we want to be more understanding of someone's situation or mistakes.
Now let's give some example sentences. Eric, can you start?
Sure. Here's my example. The teacher cut John some slack because it was his first day at the new school. It means that the teacher was less strict with John and didn't expect too much from him because it was his first day and everything was new to him.
Good explanation. Here's my example. I was late for work, but my boss cut me some slack because of the bad traffic. It means that even though I was late, my boss wasn't angry or strict about it because he understood that the traffic was very bad.
That's right. It's an informal phrase, so we usually use it in casual conversations with friends or family. Now, let's hear a dialogue using this phrase. Ready, Lisa?
Yes, I'm ready.
Hey, why are you so upset with Tom?
He forgot my birthday. Can you believe it?
That's not like him. Maybe you should cut him some slack.
Cut him some slack? Why?
Well, he's been really busy with his new job. He might be stressed.
I guess you're right. Okay, I'll cut him some slack this time.
That was an interesting dialogue, Eric. Let's talk about the idiom. Do you think it's important to cut people some slack sometimes, Eric?
Yes, I do. Everyone might make mistakes or have difficult times, so being understanding can help relationships. What do you think, Lisa?
I agree. Cutting someone some slack can show kindness and empathy. Have you ever had to cut someone some slack?
Yes, once I cut my roommate some slack when he was late with the rent because he had a family emergency. How about you, Lisa?
I cut my sister some slack when she forgot to call me on my birthday because she was studying for a big exam.
Those are good examples. Do you think there are times when we shouldn't cut someone slack?
That's a good question. I think if someone repeatedly makes the same mistake, maybe we shouldn't always cut them slack.
I agree. It's important to find a balance between being understanding and holding people responsible for their actions.
Well said. Remember, listeners, to cut somebody some slack means to be less strict or more understanding with someone.
Exactly. It's a useful phrase for showing empathy in everyday situations.
All right, that's all for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found it helpful and fun.
Please subscribe and like the video.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more simple explanations of English words and phrases.
Until then, keep practicing and keep learning. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.